Good day, everyone. My name is Michelle D. Clark, and I'm your favorite small town girl with big time dreams, where God has definitely shown His grace and His mercy, and He has saved me from some life threatening things. It is an absolute thrilling, thankful Thursday on purpose. Why? Because I said so, and you can too. That is what is available to us. We can speak those things that aren't as though they were and put them out there into the atmosphere. All right, everybody, it is our Great at Eight, where mindset matters. So, all right, some quick housekeeping rules, you all. So, let me make sure that I have my handy dandy water bottle accessible and ready. So, all right, and that I do. So, okay, you all, let me, as I'm sipping my water, I got to say this real quick. You don't even understand that behind the scenes here, you guys. So, I got to be like 100% transparent with you guys. I was having some for real technical issues. So like when I'm too close to the camera, it was doing this weird thing where it was making me look like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, what's that movie, The Terminator? When like, oh, okay, I won't get too graphic, but if you've seen the Terminator where his face got all right, that's what it was kind of looking all and made me look metallic in certain spots. So like, okay, let me put my hand like that. That's going like, what is that? So okay, so just being fully transparent with you all. So I have to stay back from the camera and I have to kind of resist my temptation to get closer because I don't know, for some reason I feel like when I'm closer to the camera that I'm like closer to you, the viewer. So all right, so as you all are coming in, go ahead and put your name in the chat so I can give you a proper shout out, and we will go through our housekeeping rules before we get started with the show. So welcome everybody. Of course, if this is your first time, welcome, and if you are a repeat supporter, then welcome back. Thank you so much for coming and joining the show. So make sure you put your name in the chat if you would like to have a proper shout out. In addition to that, make sure that you tell somebody about this. So go ahead and share this. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to go ahead and share this to somebody. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and click the little bell so that way you'll be in the know when we drop new content. So also, if you're watching, because listen, I don't want to leave you guys out because people are like, okay, you're always talking about if you're watching on YouTube. But if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on LinkedIn, make sure that you either do a little support of the heart if you're on LinkedIn, or make sure that you do the thumbs up or heart or care, any of those to just show me some love. And of course, share. Don't let this be the best kept secret. Don't keep it for yourself, right? Share. Sharing is caring. All right, you all. So now let's get down to, we have to make sure that we take a, what do you call that? Break, station identification. There we go. Yes. So we take a hydration break for identification, right? Station. So make sure you have your water handy and take a sip. And of course, if you are a repeat supporter, you already know to have your bottle of water ready. And so that way you stay hydrated. And then it helps the mind work, right? If we're talking about mindset matters, we have to make sure that our mind is working properly. So let's take our sips. And if you guys can remember some elevator music, back in the day. I don't know. Lately, I haven't heard any, but or telephone home music, but any one of those. Just listen to that. Pretend I think that's going on right now while we take our sips. And if you haven't gotten your bottle of water, this is a good time to run and go get it and hurry up and come back so that you won't miss anything. Or take your phone with you if you're watching on your phone. All right, here we go. Let's go. Awesome. All right, now we are ready to go. I can't even put it back in my little holder there because I'm so far away from you all. I feel like I'm so far away from you all. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, you all. So I know we talked about over the past couple of days. So for you all, we're doing a special segment, Great at 8. I know you guys are used to my Tuesday talks with Miss Clark, LMSW, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the name of the whole show, yay. And we do that on Tuesdays, hence the name, at 8 p.m., hence the name. And we have a talk, hence the name. So we've implemented this week, Great at 8, Monday, of course, Tuesday talks, and then Wednesday, Thursday, today, and then tomorrow. So make sure that you tune in and you have your faces in the place. So that way you can be a part of our Great at 8. So thank you so very much. All right, I see some eyeballs coming in. So as they're coming in, make sure that you put your name in the chat so that way you can have a proper shout out. All right, you all. So now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now today, we've been talking about mindset matters. We've been talking about how the brain works, how our minds work, and breaking it down. So we talked about cognitive mapping. I gave some examples of how we map things. So when an event happens, we have thoughts about that event, good, bad, or otherwise. And then after that, we have emotions based on the thoughts that we produce. And then we have outcomes, behaviors, responses, reactions, whatever you want to call them, based on our feelings, based on our thoughts, based on our thoughts about the event. Now, we also talked about how those feelings that we have, or excuse me, let me take a step back, how the thoughts that we have can either be positive or negative, and not in the sense of being like negative, although you can look at it that way too, but negative as far as how we view the event. Do we view the event positively or do we view the event negatively? So we talked about that. And then we also talked about how, based on our thoughts, positive and negative, about the event, it shapes our feelings. Yes, our thoughts shape our emotions, right? So our emotions. So we have thoughts like, oh, I'll never get a. Oh, here's one. I'll never get a good I'll never get a good man, right? Or why is it that I always seem to attract men that are no good? Or why I always seem to attract females that da 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 da? Or why is it that every job that I get, it turns sour after a couple of years? Or why is it that every employee that I hire, after a while, they stop doing their jobs? They just they're just barely doing the bare minimum just to keep from getting fired. Not to mention that the employer might just be only paying them enough not to quit, right? So, anyways, bottom line is, these are some of the thoughts that may come, and then based on those feelings, and we can even get something that's a little more emotionally latent, if you will. So what about, why is it that why is it that I can't ever seem to win? Why is it that I always, whenever I find myself getting ahead, then I always, take two steps forward and three steps backwards? Things like that. So we have these kind of cognitions about different events that we have. So an event might have been where we got a phone call where a customer said, hey, you know what? I don't want your service or product anymore. I'm going to, I want to stop my service. You said, oh, here we go again. Here's another one of those. What we don't realize is that we actually put that out there into existence by speaking those things. We'll get to that. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But these are the types of things we're going to talk about in a moment after I do a quick little recap here. So I want to make sure to do that recap. So based on, and I know I'm talking like really fast because I really want to get through this recap so we can get down. So based on those thoughts, the negative thoughts, those negative emotions, and then the negative emotions can spiral us. Negative emotions could be, sadness, anger. And again, it's not the emotion itself. It's not the emotion itself that makes it negative, y'all. So let's make sure that we are clear on that. So that's not the case. What it is what we do with that, what our emotions produce is motions, right? So our thoughts produce the emotions, and the emotions produce the motion, meaning the outcome, the behavior, the reactions, how we respond. And as we talked about yesterday, just because we have an initial negative thought about an event doesn't mean that we have to now have a negative emotion or negative motions. How does that work, Michelle? So glad you asked me that. So what we do is something that we call thought replacement. So we replace the thoughts that we have. So we all have negative automatic thoughts. We all have thoughts that are automatic and can be negative. Happens like that. An incident happens, an event happens, boom, here comes a negative thought. And we're like, oh man, it's almost like when you first wake up in the morning and the clock goes off and you're like, oh, it's already time to get up in the morning. Feel like I just closed my eyes. That may be a negative automatic thought that pops in your mind as soon as you wake up, right? But then what we can do is, and using this example, just continue this along, we can replace it with a more pleasant thought. So we can say, yep, you know what? I'm so happy and grateful that I am alive, that I woke up on this side of dirt. Because some folks who woke up this morning, they didn't shut off a clock. They woke up and they weren't in their environment. They were either really, really serene and peaceful or really, really hot. Right? So, all right. So that's how we then replace it with a more pleasant thought. So that way we can have more pleasant emotions and a more suitable outcome. So I'm sure that we want to have a pleasant outcome. So how do we do that? So we factor that in a couple of different ways. First, we ask ourselves, when the event occurs, we have that thought that may be perceived as negative. Is it true? Is it true? If it is not true, hey, what's going on? Dr. Kroom is in the house. Yes, we do have to be thankful for our breath. Absolutely, 100%. I love that. Matter of fact, I want to put that up there while I'm going to my next point here. So yes, ask ourselves, is it true? If it's true, then we want to, well, first of all, if it's not true, we want to replace it with something that is true. If it is true, then we want to ask ourselves, is it helpful? Is it helpful or is it hurtful? So is it helpful or unhelpful to us feeling better, to us thinking better about ourselves or the event? to us having a better response, outcome, action, activity, whatever you want to call it, right? Is it helpful? So that's recapping everything. So now let's bring it up to speed, you guys. Now that I brought you up to speed, let's take it a little bit deeper. I said yesterday that I want to come up with some more examples. So please feel free to use the chat. You can put something in the chat that maybe something that you've experienced or somebody that you know of experienced, right? Because sometimes we don't want to just put ourselves out there. Sometimes we want to say, oh, well, my friend, right? Or this way actually, all right, my friend did such and such, or my friend had this kind of outcome. So let's talk about an event and then let's break it down. And then we're going to do a thought replacement to help ourselves to have a better emotion and a better outcome, right? So it could be something like, let's say something like, maybe, I know we have a lot of professional business owners, a lot of professional business women who are watching this. So there's a lot of different things that we go through. And let's talk about maybe if something happened inside of our business. So we're going to start a little softer and then we'll get a little more emotionally laden, right? So let's say if something happened where we were looking for, let's say we were looking for, I know my mind is like, totally, I promise you guys, I had so many things swirling in my mind and it all just like poof, went away. So let's say this. Let's say that you were putting together a presentation and you had a presentation and it seemed like initially things were going accordingly. But then out of nowhere, you caught maybe a hiccup in your hookup. And maybe you got a brain fart. And so now you're like, I have this presentation. I know what I want to convey, but I don't know how to do this. Oh, why does this always happen to me? Boom. So that there is a negative automatic thought about the event. And the event is getting a brain fart when you're putting together a presentation. So based on that, you would have the thoughts, the feeling of maybe angst, anguish, anxiety, frustration, irritability, maybe even embarrassment, shame, maybe, possibly, something along those lines. And then, of course, it actually will then make it even worse because when we feel those that way, it actually closes off our logic. So when our emotions are high, our logic is low. Somebody might want to write that down. When our emotions are high, our logic is low. And that negatively impacts our ability to think. It negatively impacts our ability to be creative. So we're now exacerbating the problem. So then we find ourselves deeper in the pit of having that brain fart. So how can we replace that? We can replace that by saying something like, okay, I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to get it done. At the end of the day, I'm going to be successful. At the end of the day, or I am successful. I am creative. I will get through this. I am getting through this. And then the thoughts that we replace that with are more positive. Therefore, our emotions. I don't know about you guys. Did you feel a little more hopeful when I said that? Did you feel a little more like, like the clouds opened up and the sun rays started coming down and now you're like, oh yes, now I can do this. And that is another thought. Yes, I can do this. Based on that, you should find your creative juices, and opening up. This is the reaction now. So we went from the thought to the emotions now into the reactions and our actions. So those are ways now that we can start the wheel churning again, right? So sometimes as women, we may feel overwhelmed from situations such as, okay, here's a real good one, y'all. So some people in the state of Michigan, y'all, the school's been closed down yesterday and today. Hey, what's going on? Miss Fuchina is in the house. Hello, young lady. So some of the schools were closed, right? And based off of that, if the person was not a virtual employee or virtual employer or being able to work from home, they may have had some challenges with that. They may have had some challenges. So the situation was the schools are closed. I have to go to work. What the heck am I going to do? Or I have a project due. What am I going to do? I got to, stop and take care of the kids. What am I going to do? That's a real event, y'all. And based off of that event, we could say to ourselves, oh my goodness, I have this, that to do. I just don't know how I'm going to get through this. And who's going to do this and who's going to do that and how I'm going to do this. And Calgon take me away, right? So what we can do is we can do thought replacements. And in addition to that, you all, I was going to say this for tomorrow, but in addition to that, let's put some practical things in here, because in order to replace the thought, sometimes we have to replace it with a pause. Sometimes, exactly. Ms. Fucina says, I've been there. Sometimes we have to replace it with a pause. And we just have to stop and take a break for station identification, right? And in those moments, what we can do is something that I did. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but I stopped and I took a breath. I stopped and I took a breath. And sometimes we may have to take multiple breaths, y'all. Real talk. And the beauty of what that does is when we take those breaths, is that actually helps us to mimic the state of calm. See, our bodies it doesn't know the difference between real and not real. It doesn't know the difference when we're acting or when something's happening for real. That's why, just a quick side note, when you see actors in film, TV, whatever, and they're able to evoke that emotion and have those real tears, is because the body does not know the difference between play, fake, real. So we can use that to our advantage. We can use that to our advantage by having our bodies believe that it's calm. So that way we can now think better. So yes, stopping and taking the breath or breaths. Create that pause. Breathe. Oxygenate the brain. And let me give a couple more tips. Of course, something I already said. Hydrate. Hydrate the brain. Take those sips. Take a sip right now. Take a sip. Another thing, step away. Step away. Step away from whatever the stimulus is or stimuli is, whatever the environment is. So being able to step away from that can create space and create the movement that you need to reset. So these are, and when we do these, it's called stacking. So when we do stacking, that can help to accelerate the change that you're looking for, the change in your mind, which will change your feelings, change your actions, outcomes, reactions, behaviors, da, 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 da. So those are some things, strategies that we can utilize in conjunction with changing our stinking thinking, changing the negative thought patterns, so that way we can have a more positive outcome. So yes, so there's some movement things that we can get involved as well. Some strategies that can expand that. So now let's go back to replacing the thoughts. So once we've done these things, once we've integrated some of these strategies to remove ourselves from the stimulus, now we can go back to whatever that project was, whatever it was that we found ourselves initially stressing over, initially found ourselves feeling overwhelmed about, and look at it through new eyes. Look at it through another lens. Because that's what our thoughts are, our perspectives. It's our opinions, it's our feelings, it's our belief systems. All those things coming into play. Our schemas. All those things coming into play. So now we can take a different approach and look at it differently by thinking about it differently. I don't know if you guys remember, or maybe it was just the Illinois thing, but it used to be a store called Jewel, and their slogan was "Take a new look at an old friend, Jewel." So shout out to Jewel if it still exists. But at any rate, so now you can take a new look at an old friend, if you will, at the situation and look at it through new eyes. Now we can replace it with, okay, I'm calm, I can do this. Or now I'm ready to get started. Or now I'm ready to look at things differently. Or now I'm ready to get going. Whatever the case may be, I'm a different person now, so I can look at this differently. Whatever it takes, but inserting it with affirmations. I know somebody right now is like, oh, here we go. Affirmations. I am somebody. Here she goes with this talk. But listen, it is for real. Affirmations work. Again, when we tell our minds that we are something, so I am, using I am is the highest. It vibrates on the highest frequency. I am. Now, the pendulum swings both ways, you guys. So when we say I am and we replace it or put in that blank something that is negative, again, the mind, the body, it does not differentiate fake. It doesn't differentiate, oh, I was just saying that flippantly to that's how I really feel about myself. So when we say something like, let's say if you got something wrong, you're like, oh, I'm so stupid, or you left something, I can't believe it down, I'm so stupid. When we say these things, I am so blank, then guess what? Our subconscious now starts to go to work. Oh, you guys, okay, you know what? You all just really got me going, got me talking. Do you know that it is 21 minutes afterwards? We were supposed to be done at 20 after. You are, I'm telling you, are something else. So, okay, we're going to have to cut it here. We're going to have to cut it here. Okay, so then that means that tomorrow we'll pick up where we left off and we will talk about affirmations and we'll talk about how the mind, how we can trick our minds, if you will. I like to say put our minds to work for us instead of against us. So we're going to talk about the pendulum and how it swings both ways. And we're going to talk about how we can swing it more towards the way that we want it to swing. How about that? If y'all interested, cool beans, let's go. So, all right. In the meantime, and in between time, so I'll definitely see you all tomorrow. And if you are a professional woman, guess what? We will have Lift Nation Freedom at 1 this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we are going to show how Lift Nation is going to go to work for you. Yes. And if you're saying to yourself, how, Michelle, how can I be a part of that? Because I like to network. I know it's either networking or not working. I want to network. I want to have this mini mindset training, know how Lift Nation is going to go to work for me, and I want to network. So then all you have to do is go to bit.ly. That's LY/Lift Nation Freedom at 1. That's all you have to do. And of course, at some point in time, I'm sure you're going to see on my Facebook page and on LinkedIn or somewhere, you're going to see this post. But all right, bit.ly/Lift Nation Freedom 1. That's how you can be a part of it. Also, if you have any questions and you know, or if you have any topic suggestions for the show, if you have any questions when we do our rapid fire AMA for Tuesday Talks with Ms. Clark, LMSW, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can always go to info@MicheleDClark.com. And again, that's MICHELE, 1L, and Michelle, because you don't need two when one does the same. All right, you guys. And of course, you can always connect with me on social media platforms, all the major ones at MicheleDClark Lift. All right, you all. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for our 8 Great at 8, right? Great at 8 Mindset Matters. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you all tomorrow at 8 because we want to be great for Mindset Matters. All right, you all. And of course, you can reach me here, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. All right. In the meantime, between time, you all, my name is MicheleDClark. I am the Mindset Management Coach for professional women with Lift Nation, where we empower you, the professional woman, to live inspired, free, and transform. Take care. God bless.